Alright. Hey YouTube, welcome back to the Cutlass Board Games channel. This time we're doing a bit of a history check for Murders at Tealwoods Manor. So this is a game that I've been working on for a few years now, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through the different iterations of the prototype, which I think is going to be something a little interesting. Let me flip this around quickly. Bam. So we've got 3 different iterations of prototype. And then you can see this is what the final box looks like. So we've got, this is the second prototype. The only difference between this and the original one is that the original one was black and white. It was only played on one time, and then I replaced it with this one where I did all the graphics design myself. I got like textures, made out the different rooms to be separated a little better, and it drew it like an actual floor plan. I used a floor plan maker and traced it to kind of get the way that I wanted the rooms to be. But what I'll do is, let me put this down, make some space, and we'll go through them one by one. Let me tilt this down like this, so you can get a nice close look at it. So first up is the boards. So we've got the main board, which is part of a box cut out with sheet printed and glued onto it. So you can see some of the original ideas that persist in the latest version, where there's 7 different rooms, and the number of guests in each room is relatively similar. Most rooms have 2. There is 1 room with 1, and there is 1 room with 5. You can see the location of the stuff on the right hand side has changed, but otherwise it's kind of similar. If you have a nice look closely, the billiards room effect and the, I don't know if you may see that, the dining hall effect has swapped. The kitchen is pretty much exactly the same. The libraries effect has been changed completely, and so has the grand hall. And the coat room had an extra thing added to it. But as you can see, it's not like drastically changing an entire thing. It's refining and adding to something to potentially make it better. And then later on, better art comes along and will upgrade some of this stuff. But that is that. Then we've got the foyer wall board with the original clock style, and then 3 picture frames for the characters to go into. This was redone just to look nicer and to be vertical, whereas this is obviously a flat board. And then the next, probably most obvious change is the character tokens. So these are made the same way. It's cardboard cut out with paper glued on, but it's using historical archive art that is in the public domain. I'm trying to get that to focus. There we go. Focus nicely on that. So a lot of the names stayed similar, but we obviously needed to change who's in it and what's going on, because I wanted a better split of the different types of people we could have in here, because otherwise everyone was kind of either a judge or a warrior of some kind. But that is the original prototype. What mostly changed from there is the more art was completed. So we'll skip to the next iteration. So obviously there's no box art, there's no rule book, nothing like that. Okay, put this away. And then this is the next one. So this isn't quite a big box, and you'll see why in a second. But compared to the latest iteration, this is with cover art done. This is with cover art and graphics design done, because this logo I made as a placeholder, and there's no graphics design done. It's just literally placed on top of the box art. And sometimes that's good enough when you only have some of it complete. But here's where things get a little crazy. Put this over here. Move this out of the way for a second. Because this is where we have the board art complete for the first time. But this is board art with no graphics design because there's no iconography. It's all just text that I've put on there. And then a lot of stuff, the only real change was the central bar, the very last thing. And we added the gossip. So this was the second last prototype, and then gossip was added. And then we have the final version that has gossip. So it came in really late. But we really needed to change what the central bar did. Okay, that is the board. And then we had some clue tokens. So this came right at the end. And I've made these just by printing out thick card and then double-siding sticky tape over it to like kind of make it last a little bit longer. And at the time, the clue tokens were to help remember what was revealed, and then also for the investigator. And then we've got, that's another clue token. And then we've got, these are the character tokens. So paper cutout taped to a poker chip that I had scribbled on in permanent marker, which is not great because it becomes pretty identifiable pretty quickly. But I wanted something really solid and would last, and putting the tape on it does help with that because it's like pretty scratch proof, right? So we have a whole bunch of the characters done out like this. You can see the color vibrancy is really nice as well. And it's super durable. These were played through a convention and they're not really that beat up. And then we have the cards, which have not really changed. So this is with the graphics design done. So with this particular version, as stuff was updated, I've gone in and added it to that. But the next major difference is, and I don't know how obvious it would be, kind of like a wonky spot the difference, but same clock, same frames. We had this little icon for the clues because originally it was just going to be a dice, but I decided the tokens was better. And we changed the background. Instead of the brickwork thing that I had, we made this much nicer kind of wooden thing going on. And then I had made up the gossip tokens just by cutting something out and gluing it on and then taping it down. But because they're not the same size, it looks a little bit wonky. But I made all 20 of them. And this is what I was using to test stuff and to show off to people for like the later stages at PAX and stuff like that. Actually, I need to take it all out before I can put it away because of the way the boards fit in there, unfortunately. So the reason why the box is so big is because the boards are huge and wooden, because even though the final version is not going to be wooden, I really wanted to have something that had like a really big presence and was going to be super durable. I didn't want to have a cardboard board that just got beaten up. So I went and got this crazy wooden stuff done, and it wasn't that expensive. And there's a clock hand. So this is stolen from a different game prototype of mine. They also had a clock, but for different things. The clock was how you chose what your actions were going to be, or something like that. So let me quickly pack this up, and we'll get to the next. So a lot of this stuff is good to keep because sometimes you want to go back and look at an idea. Sometimes you want to show off your progress, like what I'm doing here. I think it's all kind of important. Let me put the cards back in. Put all the cards back in, make sure the clock hand, get all the tokens. This one that rolled away. And we'll put that back in the box. Alright, nice and snug in there. And then we have the latest, the almost final one. So this is the manufacturing sample. The manufacturing final will have some little tweaks and updates. But as you can see, we are trying to keep it kind of small. This is the staircase, which is made by me. This is just cardboard that I folded with the correct art because they weren't able to figure out and get it done in time. And then we've got the tokens, which you can see have been worn a little bit from heavy play, because this version got absolutely beaten to death at a few events and stuff like that. You can see that all the art in it is really nice. And then the cards are the same, they're just in a different colored sleeve. They're in a green one now instead of the pink one before. Because these are the ones made by the manufacturer, whereas the other ones are made by me. Then we have a rulebook for the first time. So I don't normally bother making a rulebook until I can have a graphics designer do it, because it's really just a collection of notes until then. But it does look quite nice. And then we have the board. So you'll recognize the board as the same art as the last version, but we have iconography now instead of big white text all over the board, and it's much obviously smaller and lighter and folds, which I think is important. So I like it being smaller personally. I know some people like a really big game, but the game is still big without it being physically large. And I'll put this back in the box because then I want to show you the foyer wall board. So now this, which is something that was vertical before, was horizontal before, is now vertical. So you can see we've got the same picture frames, but we've got a nice background that accompanies it, and it makes it feel like you've just gotten to the top of the staircase. The whole idea is that this is thematically upstairs, and you would have the staircase here. As you can see, it matches the carpet, right? And then that makes the upstairs. And then we have a clock with an actual hand in it instead of something you place on top. Like, this is actually built into the board. I'll show you the back so you can see what I mean. It's got a like a plug mechanism for it. And then the little hand will spin around. And also there's sleeves in them for the card to fit in. Whereas the other one, it would just rest on top. But that is kind of more product development than specifically game design. A lot of the game design stuff, the original spec was pretty strong. I didn't feel like I needed to change that much stuff. The main thing was the what became the central bar was originally the grand hall, because I just wanted it to be something small, because I knew that that room was going to be filled up with blanks most of the time anyway. And then adding the gossip thing fixed the tiebreaker problem that we had, because the tie-breaking breaker wasn't that great. But that is a little look at the history into Murders at Tealwoods Manor. A little look into the whole crazy journey of how we got from this pile to this cool finished product. So if the game, or if this looks like something that you think is kind of interesting, want to check out a little bit more, we have a playlist of a whole bunch of stuff you can click on and check out more about how the game was put together, more about moving towards the Kickstarter. If you want to check out the Kickstarter, there'll be links in the description to go and have a look at that. Or have a look at some of the other stuff. We have like a whole bunch of other game design stuff, and like Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, Marvel Snap, a whole bunch of other content on the channel that's worth checking out as well. So click on some of those buttons, check out some of those videos. And while you're clicking stuff on the screen, hit the like and the subscribe button as well, because they're all good buttons.